Good evening, and thank you for attending tonight's meeting of the Westerville City Schools Board of Education. As you can see, the agenda is up on the screen where you can follow along. I want to let you know at the very end, we were planning on going into executive session, and we have decided that we will not be able to do that tonight. Sorry. So, moving on, there will be two opportunities to address the board this evening, the first being Agenda Item 6.1. The first set of public comments is relative to Agenda Items 7.1 through 12.2. Please state the agenda item you are referencing at the beginning of your comments. The second opportunity is 13.01. This public comments section is for items on this evening's agenda. There is a sign-up sheet located on the back table in the room, and each speaker will have 5 minutes to address the board. And with that, Mr. Griffith, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Byrd, Dr. French,
Here.
Dr. Nestor Baker,
Here.
Mr. Velardo,
Here.
Mrs. Davidson.
Here. Will you all please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Up first, district highlights and recognition, 3.01, and Mr. Velardo is going to fill us in on what that's going to be.
Thank you, President Davidson. We have an exciting program for you tonight to highlight some student activities on behalf of the members of the Westerville Board of Education, Dr. Kellogg, Superintendent of the Westerville City Schools. We would like to acknowledge the leadership and hard work of several students who led efforts in their high schools to educate their peers, teachers, administrators, and community members on the importance of Black history in our schools and our community. These student leaders have inspired hundreds of students with insightful performances and motivational quotes shared during Black History Month. We have asked a few of the student leaders to join us this evening to be recognized. We acknowledge that Black History Month has passed, yet we believe it is important to highlight and recognize our students' great efforts. I'd like to begin with Westerville North High School. Mr. Kurt Yancey is the principal, and Miss Christina Cameron is the teacher who served as the Black History Month advisor. Ms. Cameron could not be here with us this evening. Westerville North student leaders researched and shared quotes of notable African Americans in Black history during the morning announcements for the entire month of February. These students are here today to share a few of their favorite quotes. I'm going to share their names. All three of them will come to the microphone and share some of these quotes. Isatu Carbo, Joanne Saleh, and Nancy Wood. You can share one at a time, that's fine. Go ahead and step closer to the microphone so that make sure they can hear you, because you'll be on this, this camera.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Isatu Carbo and I go to Westerville North. And my favorite quote is, "Real integrity is doing the right thing, knowing that nobody's going to know whether you did it right or not," by Oprah Winfrey. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joanne Saleh, and the quote that most inspired me was by Michael Jordan. He quoted, "I missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I failed over and over and over again, and that is why I succeed."
Hello, my name is Nancy Wood, and one of my favorite quotes is by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., an activist, humanitarian, and the leader of the civil rights movements, he stated, "Hate is too great a burden to bear. It injures the hater more than it injures the hated." Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, so much. Next, we would like to recognize Westerville Central High School. Mr. Todd Spinner is the principal. Mrs. Holly Park is a Spanish teacher who also serves as the Black History Month advisor, along with Miss Erica Geis, guidance counselor and co-advisor for Black History Month. Westerville Central student leaders organized a Black History Month program that was shared with the school and the community on 25 February. Students performed musical selections, African dance, and poetry. We would first like to recognize the following student leaders for their hard work and dedication in creating such an incredible Black History Month program. Toby Abajobi Richard, would you please stand just so we can recognize you just right where you are? Alex Oladele, please stand. Pluvinia Pluvois John. You may be seated. Thank you very much. Now I'd like you to please welcome to the podium Andy Zippe and Kadra Jama, Westerville Central students, as they share their original poem entitled Mixing Colors.
Sometimes the gap between you and I seems so great, but I will never bridge it with any foundation of hate.
Sometimes there are differences I do not understand, but I'll always hear your side like you've respected mine.
In 1865, President Lincoln said it was his power to use his power for equality.
In 1964, President Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act.
People say to leave the past in the past, and it's true that we've come way too far to start going back. Some think things will never change, but they swore the world was flat, and how wrong was that?
Dr. King did not refrain from violence because he was weak, but because he could not put out a fire by adding more gasoline.
Berkeley, Boston, Ferguson, we hear you, and we too will use our voice for change, because injustice does not wear a badge, and injustice does not wear its hood up. Injustice lives in us when we fail to continue those who went before us.
In voice there is power, in power there is people. In people there is a drive for something better, a drive for change. And in change, there must be unity, and we can be that something better.
When I say unity, I do not mean me equals you or you equals me. I mean me plus you equals family. And family doesn't make us the same. It just means that we can both come home to the same place and be safe.
When I say unity, I do not mean to start calling yourself colorblind. Do not insist that you see no white or no black, because even a child sees a difference.
But difference has been misread. Difference has been feared when difference is to be celebrated.
And I know that we've all been limited to our differences, but I don't want to be just an artist or just an athlete. And I don't want to see the world in just black or just white, when together there is so much in between.
I don't want us to live separate. I want us to dance with the world we had believed we had to fight. So let's paint like children who mix all the colors together with no regard for the messes we will make before we truly see that we are beautiful.
I don't want to get out without stains that prove that I was there.
And I was there, and so were you.
It was awesome. Thank you. Last but not least, we would like to recognize Westerville South High School. Mr. Stephen Anderson is the principal, and Miss Ashley Miller is an ESL teacher and Black History Month advisor. Westerville South student leaders also organized a Black History Month program that included African dance, poetry, musical selection, and skits. We would like to first recognize the following student leaders for their hard work, outstanding contributions to Black History Month. And again, when I share your name, if you would just please stand where you are. Aline Torre, Deontay Nix, Irene Apiaba, thank you so much. Please be seated. Now I'd like you to please welcome Ipimensi Ogundare, Westerville South student as she performs her original spoken word piece entitled, I Can't Breathe.
Hello, my name is Ipemisi Ogundare, and I'm from Westerville South. I can't breathe. I can't grow. I can't reach. My aspirations are made in desperation, in the belief that if I don't change my occupation, I will become nothing. My excellence is irrelevant, and I have become indifferent to the world as I try to hurl myself into the light to be witnessed, but instead I am dismissed, treated as refuse because I have no profound use. I have found that black excellence is often treated like rubbish, while white mediocrity is exalted. And for no other reason, the color of my skin. You can't even begin to understand my pain. When it's cool to be black, but only for profit or gain, and all of this hidden by a society in which we have to fight to make black lives a priority, I simply can't breathe. Society doesn't want me to succeed. My dreams will remain just that, dreams. My path is covered in shattered glass and coals, which is much more painful than stepping on Legos. I'm wading barefoot through a heap of ash and soot that could be my dreams. But they're not, and they never will be, because I simply won't stop. I will transcend this dark place and enter a new space where I will travel at my own pace, and society is not against my race. I will work till I drop because I will reach the top, and nothing and no one will stop me till I can breathe.
Thank you so much. We would like to thank all of the students for sharing your gifts with your fellow students, with your teachers, administrators, with the members of this board, and certainly with the Westerville community. You are extremely talented youngsters, and we wish you all the best. And something just a little bit off script, because I've been trying to do this on script to make sure I introduce you and get all of that appropriate. We live in a world in which we want to hear all the voices, and we appreciate your voices a lot. We've seen in the news recently how important it is to listen, and to listen carefully, and to refute that which is wrong, and to embrace that which is right. And what I see in all of you is something that is really right for the future. So what you've done today, my prayer is that it's just the beginning of you speaking your words, and every once in a while shouting your words, because we need to hear from each person. You're obviously very talented, and we are very grateful. And I just pray that God blesses each one of you. Thank you very much for coming.
We all want to take a moment to thank you individually, if that would be okay. Would you mind coming up, and maybe we can shake your hands and kind of introduce ourselves to each of you? And thank you, thank you, thank you for such powerful, moving words. You are all welcome to stay, which it looks like you're going to. Yay, we really usually don't have a crowd like this. Or you are welcome to leave, whichever you would like to do. So.
There they
But
go
again,
now.
thank you for coming.
My chance to leave. Yeah. What are you trying to do, get rid of everybody?
No, but I was laughing like the people in the back.
Oh. That's okay.
Okay, moving on. Board meeting minutes, 4.0 run, discussion and approval of the minutes. Does anyone have any questions or comments on our minutes from the last meeting? Nope, okay. 5.01, staffing update. Dr. Kellogg, do you want to talk to us first, or should we just welcome Lori to the podium?
Well, as they're walking to the podium, so this evening, what we want to do is to give the board kind of an overview of where we are with the Human Resources Department. If you go back in your memory, recall that we've had some changes in leadership there. We've moved some administrative positions there to provide some support, and I thought this might be a good opportunity for that department to come forward and talk to you a little bit about where they've been, what they're doing, and how we think that's going to impact the school system. A lot of this ties back to strategic planning, so this is kind of an update on where we are with HR. So this won't be so much about positions we're hiring right now, but more about process and some data. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Smetzer.
Thank you, Dr. Kellogg. What we'd like to do tonight is share a little bit about numbers and so forth, and talk a little bit about some of the process change. If you remember back in September, we shared with you a potential list of retirees. And what I want to show you first of all this evening is presently where we're at. The left-hand column is the potential retirees that we shared with you back in September. The right-hand column, the confirmed retirees, people that have sent us notices, people that are on the board agenda tonight, people that you've accepted retirement letters from prior to this evening. And so as you look at all of this, you know, in some areas it's right on target, other areas it's kind of lagging behind. The retirement letters have seemed to have slowed down in the last week. I don't know if everybody's consumed with testing and getting ready for spring break. I don't know, but let me back up here. You know, one thing I do want to draw your attention to, the last line on the first page, guidance counselors. You know, we had projected 7, we're at 6. And so we were at the University of Dayton today recruiting folks and so forth. And this is one of the groups that we targeted for interviews and so forth today. Like we shared with you in September, potential of 152 folks, and at this point we have 41, and that would include the folks on the agenda tonight. I'd like to share with you the experience level of our staff. We've broken this down 0 to 5 years, 6 to 10 years, 11 to 20, plus 21 years. We know, or we feel comfortable that in this number, we have a number of people that are 5 years, 60 years of age, which is one of the criteria for STRS, 25 years experience, age 55, and then of course 30 years at any age. And then we also know that we have some people that had experience other places, and they've come to Westerville and they work for us currently, and we may not have all their experience on our books. And quite honestly, that's not uncommon until folks get ready to retire, and then they bring the retirement numbers to us. Please keep in mind, with the help of Bart's office, we've hosted 2 meetings with STRS representatives, one in November, one last February, just a week or so ago. And we also hosted one for SERS the same week, a week ago. And SERS changes will come into effect 2017. And even though we're 2 years out, we had a significant turnout for that meeting, a lot of great questions by a lot of our staff. But one of the things I want to draw your attention to on this list, with the practice in the recent past of hiring B0, you can see that reflected in our staff. And I will tell you, this school year, we have had over 100 leave of absences that we've processed through the HR office, and much of it contributing to, young staff members, so forth. So, Lori?
Good evening. As I knock over the microphone, it'll be a great introduction. I'm going to talk a little bit about process and hiring moving forward for the spring. In January, we did move to a more updated online application system. It's helping us build some efficiencies in the process. There are electronic tools that we didn't have in our previous system, such as an online interview scheduling tool where we can send out emails to candidates and with all of the opportunities for them to select whatever time and date is the best for their schedules, as opposed to back and forth phone calls and emails trying to figure out the best time to schedule an interview. Simple things like that, but that are trying to help our principals and our staff build some efficiencies in the process. We have many applicants that have filled out those initial applications in the system, so we are off to a good start. We also brought 12 administrators in who were volunteers in the last couple of weeks to refresh them on the Ventures, HumanX Ventures screening tool. And the 12 of us are going to do some initial screening interviews. Gary and I are also taking teams of them to college fairs starting today and over the next few weeks. To build, again, a high-quality pool of what we would consider first-tier applicants for buildings to interview when they have a vacancy, as opposed to trying to sift through all of the applicants at that time when the vacancy becomes available. So again, trying to build efficiencies, trying to hand off to the principals who have a vacancy in their building a high-quality pool of a smaller high-quality pool of applicants to bring to their building-level committees for the interview process to begin at that point. We've also been working with Cynthia and teachers in the district on some additional minority recruiting efforts. We've added some college fairs to our list that maybe weren't on the list originally to try to have access to interview a few more minority candidates. And we have some ideas for helping to encourage teachers of color to want to come to Westerville. It's a very welcoming place, and we want to make sure we're putting our best foot forward to those high-quality minority candidates. In addition, in the spring, as we move forward, I think spring is finally going to be here. As we move forward into spring, we will begin to post more and more vacancies. Of course, we will follow the contract. We have the internal moves first. The added consideration of all-day kindergarten will cause a little bit more movement probably at the elementary levels. We will take a look at our leave of absences from this past year and make sure that those folks have appropriate placements if they are returning. And we will begin that process of sending out those final pools of, not final, but pools of applicants that we have already screened as a district, hopefully with some consistency across the 12 of us, so that we can, again, build some efficiencies at the building level, help the principals move into being able to offer early offers to candidates that are interested in coming to Westerville. And our goal really is to be finished by the end of June. I think we'll have that. That is still the goal. At this time, Gary and I are happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Might be helpful to the board if you talk a little bit more about the leave of absence. You mentioned 100, and I'm not sure if everybody understands what the impact of that is on operations for us, because that's a little bit out of the ordinary, is it not?
Well, Gary and I are both new to the district, but we do believe that that is, from everyone we've spoken with, it is out of ordinary for this district and others. It is a huge number, as Gary said. Even Southwestern was surprised that was the number that we had. That involves short-term, long-term leaves of absence or anything over 5 days. So that involves things anywhere from 10 days, 7, 8, 9, 10 days, all the way up to the, maternity leaves that go into 60, 90 days. Could be longer if it's a family illness. There are a variety of reasons, but that has been an ongoing, rolling process this year. I have spent a lot of time working with staff and principals to try to recruit applicants and candidates for those long-term positions that otherwise, we would have been focusing on, again, this hiring process much earlier on. But those just don't seem to be stopping. We're continuing to get a couple of those a week. I think we have at least 4 that we are trying to fill right now for the April-May window. And it's just been an enormous number for any district.
And there's 2 types of leaves of absences. One, like Lori just addressed, the short-term leave of absences. And as she talked about, as we plan staffing for next year, we have folks that have taken a leave of absence for the whole school year. And those notices were mailed out to our office about 3 weeks ago, and we're getting those back. And people indicating that, yes, I'm coming back. So when they do that, we have to find a place for them. And we have, I don't want to quote a number of those, but again, we're in the process of checking with those folks because they've been out for the whole year. And according to contract, when they come back, we owe them a place in their area of certification. They may not go back into their 2nd grade class at X elementary, but we have to find them a place where they're certified, and that's by contract. And so those people all have to be factored into the equation too, because we don't want to have 5 people show up the first day and no assignment. That wouldn't work well.
That was my question in regard to process, and Dr. Kellogg brought it up there, the leave of absence thing. As far as your process, that must be very difficult because you ask them if they're, especially the long-termers, if they're coming back or not. So they have first option, and then the positions are not filled until they decide, or not posted maybe even, right? Because
well,
how do you do that
there's
in terms of process?
There's a process in, for example, like in an elementary building, there is a process of internal moves. If we have a retirement of a 1st grade teacher, there's a process internally that the building will go through, and eventually the principal will tell us, my vacancy is going to be in 3rd grade. And so that has to take place first. And then we also factor in these long-term folks coming back too. And so, we can go out and interview for various vacancies, but there's some that, we have to do this other first. And we're doing the same thing with kindergarten. The 6 buildings that have 1 unit, they will go through that internal process, and there'll be moves and so forth, and ultimately they'll let us know what the vacancy is in the building. Could be that kindergarten unit, could be a 2nd grade class, could be 3rd, whatever they find out in their building. Okay?
So I think I'm a little confused on something. So we have someone leave on a long-term for a reason. Do we fill them through the ESC, but we still interview them? How does that work? Because we receive substitutes from them, correct?
Right. If it is, and neither one of us were here last year, but if it's a long-term and that person is not going to be working all year long.
Okay.
There was a person hired as a teacher in the district. And again, we have this list that we keep and check and we have to keep places for these people when they come back. The other leaves of absences that may occur, say, January and February, we know the start date for the most part, and we know the ending date when they're going to return. And that's where we get the long-term sub or the substitute through the ESC.
Okay.
Mrs. Davidson, I would add that because of the sheer numbers of long-term leaves over the course of this school year, I was helping to recruit people to apply for those positions. We post those because they're long-term and not the day-to-day subs, but the ESC still hires those folks. We post them. We were getting no applicants, so I was doing cold calls. Our staff was helping me try to find applicants to even come in and talk to us about the possibility of taking on a long-term sub position for us. But we send them back. Once they agree, if it's a good fit, we send them back to the Educational Service Center. And Gary just also mentioned, we went to Otterbein in December to interview some December grads, so that was a pool that was great for us, but there weren't enough of them, so it's really been a rolling process this year.
It's kind of an anomaly year, 100 some of those, and this is some of the complexities that I don't think everybody understands rolls through that department, and why strong leadership there is important, because we're trying to get the right people in classrooms to teach kids. You know, there's a difference between a teacher out for a day and a teacher who's out for 3 months, and what we want to have happen in that classroom. So this is part of what goes on in the back rooms of HR, and so I appreciate the leadership they're doing. The other thing that I think is an interesting point of change that they kind of subtly went over was this business about screening of teacher applicants at the district level initially using a standard interview protocol. They mentioned the Ventures tool, which I'm familiar with, which provides us the opportunity at the front end at the district office. What they're basically doing is reducing the burden on buildings in terms of looking at interview candidates. We have a team of people screening. They create a short list of quality candidates that they'll send, say, 2 or 3 down to a building for a building interview. As opposed to building doing 10 or 15 interviews, they might do 3. Now, if there isn't a clear winner in that pool, they can come back to HR and say, hey, can you send us some more? But it's a way of supporting buildings, getting the right people in place. And it also means that as a district, that the HR department is on the front end trying to make sure that there's a Westerville standard to getting in the door, to even getting to the building. You got to get to the Westerville standard before we'll send you to the building. And the last place you want to waste time interviewing is sending weak candidates to building interviews. That's just a waste of their time. So I thought so there's a lot of data points, the ventures that we do here, transcript review, reference checks that have to happen, and then interview processes that happen at buildings. All those are checkpoints to what's the quality of the candidate we're putting in that classroom at the end of the day. So it's been a lot of work, and they've done a nice job.
It is difficult. I have been a long-term sub in another district when I first came to Westerville, and it is important. I understand what you're going through, because you do need to find the right person in that subject matter or whatever, the spot is. So I empathize with you. Thank you for all you do.
Anybody else? Thoughts? No? Lori, Gary, thank you very much. Moving on to 6.01, public comments pertaining to action items, and we don't have any. Financials, 7.01, we have none. Then we are moving on to the personnel consent agenda. That is 8.01 through 8.08. And Lori's going to come back up and talk to us. May I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Good evening again, President Davidson, members of the board. Tonight's consent agenda has 8 sections involving 45 persons. The section 8.01 has 2 classified resignations. 8.02 has 7 teacher retirements. 8.03 has 4 classified staff leaves. 8.0, sorry, was that 03? 8.04 has 3 temporary change of assignments of classified staff. 8.05 has 6 leave of absence for licensed teachers. 8.06, one-time payment for training of a nurse. 8.07 is employment of 3 classified staff, and 8.08 has employment of licensed staff, including a homebound tutor and various supplementals. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions?
Getting off easy
I
tonight.
know. Thank you. Bart, do you want to call the roll?
Dr. French,
Yes.
Mr. Velardo,
Yes.
Mr. Byrd,
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker,
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson.
Yes. Thank you. 9.01, policy consent, we have none. Recommended action, old business, none. New business, none. Wow, we are rolling tonight. Recommended standing action, 12.01, donations. Any questions, comments on our donations? Can I have a motion, though, first?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Just the, as we always say, just a huge thank you to all the folks, regardless of size of donation. It's just a powerful witness, I think, to this community, how they support us.
Absolutely. Bart?
Yes.
Mr. Byrd,
Yes.
Dr. French,
Yes.
Mr. Velardo,
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson.
Yes. 12.02, all-day kindergarten tuition. May I have a motion here?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so I want to talk to you guys a little bit about this. On February 9th, we made a motion after we were presented with our all-day kindergarten options. Several of us, one of us made a motion, but several of us approved it, to approve option 2, and this is verbatim, for all-day kindergarten for the 2015-2016 academic year. The monthly tuition rate was $300 with a sliding fee schedule. We've had questions around the sliding fee schedule. Dr. Kellogg on February 23rd clarified what the sliding fee schedule meant, and we had lots of discussion that continued around that. And so tonight, this is a motion that, just kind of solidifying it, that is going to say, the motion to approve all-day kindergarten at an annual cost of $3,000 or $300 per month for 10 months. So we broke it down there. Families qualifying under the federal guidelines for free and reduced lunch will have their tuition waived. In addition to this, this is not saying this is forever, because annually we review fees. So as Richard had suggested, we are going to revisit things and monitor. So we are not saying this is set forever, but for now, we would like to tell the public this is where we stand. So, with that, any questions, comments?
I would just seek a clarification by voting as a board on this subject. We are confirming going forward that we regard this tuition as a fee. Because if I remember correctly, within our guidelines, tuition is not a term that we use in the public school setting, but we would qualify this as a fee. Correct?
Well, would it be, Dr. Kellogg, would it be, I guess it would be under our fee schedule.
Well,
How is
summer
that
school,
gonna-
I'm thinking
yeah.
our summer school, don't we call, I don't know, terminology, is that what you're concerned about?
Well, I'm just,
Tuition
so,
versus the
yeah,
fee.
the
Right.
usage of the term
Right.
tuition, I guess, Bart, I would look at you. I mean, I know that our board obligations allow us to vote on fees. I just want to make sure that our terms are correct.
I think we use summer school tuition as a fee.
I was thinking we do too.
We use the same terminology for summer school.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent, just as long as we're
Being as a
consistent.
fee, this way, when the board does your fee schedule every, like next spring for every year, the board will have an opportunity to see if that number needs to change or not, but it'll, if it doesn't change, it would be part of that fee schedule so that everybody knows, just like we have pay to participate fees and all the other fees, it'll all be part of that fee schedule So it's all part of the same thing.
Good. Just want to make sure that we're consistent in terms is all.
Yeah.
We are.
My only comment is my concern of, where are we going to end up dollar-wise? And, I know we talked about doing this quarterly, so we're down the road very quickly. We'll be looking at it. And it's always hard to bring back an additional tuition when you've, it costed it at zero. So I have a concern for that. Because if I were getting it for nothing, then we, as a board, change it, then, but, that's just my thoughts initially, as I'm looking at it, because, we did kind of think, some of us thought we were voting on a sliding scale, so, yeah. But I understand what you're saying. I'm just talking out loud
Oh,
here.
yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
voicing
I'm
out
listening.
loud
I'm
what I'm
just listening.
thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's my first thoughts, but that's the
Okay.
only thing, yeah.
It's a payment plan we have on this.
Payment plan,
The,
In other words,
monthly or what?
yeah, we say it's $3,000 or $300 per month for 10 months.
Right.
I want to make sure that we're very clear that we don't expect people to fork over $3,000 at once if they can't, that they can spread
no,
it out.
no, it's the $300 a month, if that's the way they prefer to do that. We have it built into the application process when the first month would be due. We start in August, we work from there. And so that's where we're at with the administrative guideline part of this as we start to build out how we communicate it. So the communication piece is, this will solidify the tuition rate, all the communication that's gone out, and we'll continue to build our administrative guidelines around that. So I think the first month is due, I've forgotten the date, we have worked into our communication pieces with people as we start to roll that out. We'll get good idea about the numbers of students next week. Tomorrow night, shameless plug, tomorrow night is Kindergarten 101, and that's will be the first opportunity for folks to find out about how to get my kid enrolled, and then if I'm interested in all-day kindergarten, we'll share more about tuition at that as well. So that's the first piece, and then we'll start to see the numbers roll in next week and start to get a sense of the demand. On the other side, the opportunity for application for free and reduced lunch and the paperwork that needs to be done, that'll all be presented to folks as well at that time. We'll start to process the paperwork.
But to follow up with Dr. Nestor Baker's question, tomorrow night, I, as a parent, will ask you, do you expect my $300 at the beginning of the month or at the end of the month?
Makes a big difference for families.
Yeah. So you've got to
We
have
have to
some
figure it
answers
out.
on that. I'm thinking.
I know that they've worked out those details around me, and
Yeah.
so I'm not prepared to tell you exactly if we said the 1st, the 15th, or the 28th of the month, but that'll all be part of our presentation tomorrow night for families and part of our communication as we move forward.
Thank you.
Dr. Nestor Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Byrd?
Yes.
Dr. French?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. Moving on to public comments, 13.01, we do not have any tonight, so that takes us to 14.01, board comments. Would anyone like to speak? Share
Just-
words of wisdom?
Yeah, just briefly, my apologies for my unexcused tardiness. I didn't get a hall pass, but I did help 2 people get up here. Yeah. And just an acknowledgement of a presentation earlier for Black History Month. Most people in the community, as well as my colleagues and friends, know I've had the privilege for the last nearly 25 years to live in a very diverse family, a nuclear family. Diverse in the sense of color and culture. And the topic of Black history, not the month, but the topic itself is a very common topic in my household. I was really encouraged to hear the presentations. I was very encouraged to hear not just the content of the presentations, but the content of the character behind those presentations. And the just loved the part of two folks speaking about their experiences and interactions with each other. It reminded me of one of my favorite Martin Luther King quotes, which is, "Love is the only power that can turn an enemy into a friend." And having lived that life, it's a point that I appreciate greatly. Also, I'm going to give an acknowledgement to our Boy Scouts in the audience. I'm assuming we're here for citizenship in the community. Excellent. Congratulations. Appreciate you coming out. I know this is that step that's going to get you that merit badge. So good to see you here. That's all I have.
No, I'm going to pass. You chose a really good night to come.
Yes, very good.
Ordinarily, we are here a lot longer and we have a lot more to say. So if you want to come back, the next meeting, say it'll probably go longer. We'd love to have you here till 8, 9 o'clock. It'd be great. That's right. 'Cause it's changing. But thank you for being here.
I have been warned by the president not to speak too long, and I've already given my, I'm
By
just
all of
kidding.
us.
As the board, I love these people. As the board liaison for community engagement and communication, every once in a while, I think it'd be important to share with you, I believe, this Wednesday, we have our summer camp and activities expo at North. And I had written down the time and I've forgotten the time. Do you have that? Do you have that time?
I think it's
Yes, ma'am.
5:30.
5:30 to 7:30. Let me tell you, this is really I've been to this a number of times. It's so well done. There are so many opportunities there for activities, camp, academic enhancement, and just flat out fun during the summer. I'm requiring all the Boy Scouts to go on Wednesday night with your parents. And you're not buying that, are you? It's just really a neat thing. I hope you can get the word out about that. I've shared already my thanks to all of those in the presentation. Once again, just stellar stuff going on within our district. I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you.
Great. Thank you to our speakers and our staff and our principals that got the kids here. That was absolutely amazing. And the reason I said not to talk is because Kellogg has a date. And so we were trying to hurry to get him out the door. That was
It's
the whole reason.
qualified that it's with Mrs. Kellogg. Is the dates with Mrs. Kellogg, because she's watching.
Of course, of course. Bart, do you have anything to add?
I've been that embarrassed since my mother said, things about me in middle school that shouldn't be said to friends, so thank you.
Sorry. The bus was coming fast. Took the opportunity. Okay, moving on to 15.01. The Board of Education will meet in regular session on Monday, March 23rd and Monday, April 13th here at 6 p.m. at the Early Learning Center. And we are not going into executive session, like I said. So may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
And?
Gotta call the roll.
and Bart calls the roll.
I know.
Mr. Velardo,
Yes.
Dr. French,
Yes.
Mr. Byrd,
Yes.
Dr. Nestor Baker,
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson.
Yes. And we're adjourned.
You said and I thought you were.